In his search for more comfortable living, modern man sometimes makes for his fellow men and even for himself an environment which turns out to be potentially harmful to health. Many people seem to have built their lives around the notion that they are in some way indispensable to children, and to question this is to attack the very center of their being. I heartily wish that in my youth I had had someone of good sense to direct my reading. I sigh when I reflect on the amount of time I had wasted on books that were of no great profit to me. What little guidance I had I owe to a young man who came to live with my family in Heidelberg. Change in the whole social system is inevitable not merely because conditions change, but because people themselves change. We change as the years go on. New feelings arise in us, old values depreciate, new values arise. Things we thought we wanted most intensely, we realize we don't care about. The things we built our lives on crumble and disappear, and the process is painful. Science is based on careful observation and experiment by which scientists can construct theories that connect different experiences. They seek regularities in the workings of nature which hopefully reveal the fundamental laws that govern the behavior of matter and forces. Central to this approach is the willingness of the scientist to abandon a theory if evidence is produced against it. Strange to say, technology, although of course the product of man, tends to develop by its own laws and principles, and these are very different from those of all natural things. Nature always, so to speak, knows where and when to stop. Greater than the mystery of natural growth is the mystery of the natural stopping of growth. Agriculture was a step in human progress to which subsequently there was nothing comparable until our own machine age. Agriculture made possible an immense increase in the number of the human species in the regions where it could be successfully practiced. I think it extremely dangerous, so far as Western civilized communities are concerned, to imagine that there are better systems than democracy. It is not so much that democracy is positively good as that it makes impossible certain great evils which are apt to exist under other systems. A general disarmament scheme, to be successful, must deprive each nation of the ability to inflict a catastrophic blow on the other. At the least, it must not give an advantage to either side. The actions of men were said to be governed by the faculty of reason, those of animals by the faculty of instinct. And this attribution of the actions of animals to instinct seems to have disguised from most of those who used the word the need for further study or explanation of them. The great development of electrical signaling devices and the vast improvements which have taken place during the past century in the means of transportation have reduced to comparative insignificance the time element in communication. The revivals of memory are rarely literal. We naturally remember what interests us. The past is recalled not because of itself but because of what it adds to the present. French parents do their best to develop the child's intelligence as rapidly as possible. They have little patience with childish ideas even if they do not go so far as to look upon childhood as an unfortunate, but necessary prelude to adult life. Man is a history-making creature who can neither repeat his past nor leave it behind. At every moment he adds to and thereby modifies everything that had previously happened to him. We can view utterances as acts of various kinds, and the exchanges of utterances that we call conversations as exchanges of acts. To think that physical comfort makes for human relations is an error we make because the absence of all comfort interferes with good relations. But we base it on the correct observation that when a parent takes pleasure in going out of his way to provide comfort for his child, the child takes it as a proof that he is lovable and deserves care and respect. It was by learning that we ceased to be animals and made ourselves into men. That was the first stage. It was then, far back in the warm jungles, that the wonderful human brain was gradually formed, and with it our fantastically intricate speech and our ingenious adaptable hands. Literary critics blame journalism for not being literary enough, historians for lacking historical accuracy, lawyers for not arranging facts by the rules of evidence. But journalism is not literature, not history, not law. Now, there is no doubt that in a modern society there is not enough meaningful work to make it possible for most people to derive the meaning in their lives from the work they do to earn a living. For it is a peculiarity of a modern society that the existence of millions depends on being paid for doing what seems like nothing when done. It is unusual now for a father to work at home, and his children rarely, if ever, see him at his place of work. We are children only once, and then only for a few short years. But these are the most impressionable years of a lifetime. Never again will the world and everything in it be so excitingly new, so filled with wonder. Never again will physical, mental, spiritual growth be so natural and unavoidable. Only after considerable public debate did towns in Great Britain adopt Greenwich time. Many were reluctant to do so, but by 1855 98% of public clocks were set to Greenwich time. So intimate is the relation between a language and the people who speak it that the two can scarcely be thought of apart. A language lives only so long as there are people who speak it and use it as their native tongue, and its greatness is only that given to it by these people. A 4-year-old girl became devoted to a bird book with large colored pictures which someone lent her. This became her inseparable companion, and she preferred it to all other books. By the time she was out of the house again, she could name correctly every bird in the book, and so could the weary adults who had read it to her, over and over. Our answer to the evils of technology is more and better technology. If rivers are becoming polluted, the solution is, we reason today, to develop stronger, and therefore costlier, anti-pollutants. The ordinary man will never be rid of the fallacy that words obey thought, that one thinks first and phrases afterward. There must first, it is true, be the intention, the desire to utter something, but the idea does not take shape until it is phrased. It is only quite recently in human history that it has come to be fairly widely accepted that all human beings are fundamentally alike, that they share the same basic interests. Strange to say, of all the irrational fears, undoubtedly the strongest and most common one is the fear of speaking in public. Why is it that the simple act of standing in front of a group of people and talking to them for a few minutes should produce such astonishing physical reactions? If you are indecisive and plan to do something about it, you can take immediate comfort in the fact that indecision is not necessarily due to ignorance and slow thinking. On the contrary, it is often thinking of so many things and consideration of so many doubts that result in the difficulty to reach and act on a simple decision. Friendship is above reason, for though you find virtues in a friend, he was your friend before you found them. It is a gift that we offer because we must. To give it as the reward of virtue would be to set a price upon it, and those who do that have no friendship to give. We realize that humans could not have become thinkers had they not at the same time been makers. Humans made tools, but tools also helped make humans the adaptive and flexible creatures they have become. Many college teachers do not call a roll or enforce attendance at their lectures, but you would be unwise to conclude from this that you need not go to them. And even more unwise to conclude that you can stay away from practical classes and seminars. Athletes do not perform or compete in social vacuums. One could even argue that modern athletics would not exist without audiences and sport fans. How many athletes would continue to train and compete if no spectators were present in an athletic event? Probably none. Most people, when they are left free to fill their own time according to their own choice, are at a loss to think of anything sufficiently pleasant to be worth doing. And whatever they decide on, they are troubled by the feeling that something else would have been pleasanter. 25 years or so ago, when I was very young indeed and the world was not yet so uncomfortable a place as it has since become, I remember hearing a wise old gentleman remark that, in his opinion, the French Revolution was a great mistake. If you will mount the saddle and travel right along with an author toward the destination that he has in mind, your reading journey will be much more swift and sure than if you travel with a goal of your own which differs from his. Medical evidence indicates that women on the average, though not so strong as men in muscular development, are less prone to disease, and though they may complain more frequently of minor illness, they live longer. The emotions of sympathy, love, anxiety, grief, anger, fear can sometimes be more adequately expressed without words. The same is true of joy, relief, and amusement. The sunshine that falls each year on roads in the United States contains twice as much energy as does the fossil fuel used annually by the entire world. Sight conveys more information about the outside world than does any of the other human senses. This is shown by the large part of the brain devoted to analyzing visual sensations. Today, we do not expect our children to work either at home or in a factory. They contribute nothing to the economic well-being of the family. They are freer than they have ever been before simply to be children. We see them as the center of the family, around which the rest of life revolves. Without the aggressive, active side of his nature, man would be even less able than he is to direct the course of his life or to influence the world around him. Television has opened windows in everybody's life. No newspaper has ever reached so many people and shown so clearly what was happening right now in their own country and everywhere else. In no respect do Japanese and Americans display greater difference than in their attitude concerning employment. When a Japanese graduates from a high school or university, he is likely to seek a position that will provide him with lifetime employment. Taking a job is thus as important a step as taking a wife, and the results are likely to last as long. If you choose your friends on the ground that you are virtuous and want virtuous company, you are no nearer to true friendship than if you choose them for commercial reasons. No one can tell another person in any definite way how he should think, any more than how he ought to breathe or to have his blood circulate. Anybody who travels to Japan by way of Asia must feel on arrival that he has entered a semi-Western environment. Yet the longer he remains in the country, the more clearly he will perceive that Western ideas and techniques sometimes undergo a subtle but definite change when planted to Japan. The primary aim of science is to find truth, new truth. This search is the more successful the more it is directed towards finding truth for its own sake, regardless of its possible practical use or application.